Washington Journal continues.
Congressman Al Green is back with us this morning, Democrat of Texas. A lot to talk about, but I want to start here on the front page of the New York Times today. It's an obituary on the front page of Carolyn Bryant Donham, a storekeeper who doomed Emmett Till with her words, as the headline puts it this morning. You were 7 years old when Emmett Till was murdered. Do you remember his killing? Do you remember your family talking about it?
I don't remember his killing, nor do I remember any conversations about it at the time. After I was older, we had conversations about it because I was reminded of what happened to Emmett Till when I would go out and about. My parents were always concerned about what could happen to me, not just from the police, because we hear a lot about that now, but also from people in society who, just for reasons that we'll never be able to explain, would hurt people of color. I understood that Emmett Till was not only taken into the custody of people in the dark of night, but they brutalized him in ways that are just inhumane. And after all of that, they then just dump his body as though it was a piece of trash. It was a very sad commentary on our time. And it's unfortunate that all of this happened because of someone contending that he may have whistled or made a statement that was inappropriate from that person's perspective. And can you imagine a time when a person could be lynched for simply saying something that someone else thought was inappropriate? That was the time that he lived in, and a time that my parents and relatives reminded me of.
I want to play for our viewers a clip from our Q&A program. It was earlier this year. We were talking with Emmett Till's cousin, the Reverend Wheeler Parker. Now he was with Emmett Till in the store that fateful day, and he spoke about the interaction with Carolyn Bryant eventually Donham, who died yesterday. This is just about 2 minutes from that interview.
The 2017 book by Duke University historian Timothy Tyson was the next big accelerant in this whole process of seeking justice. What was the big news in Timothy Tyson's book?
Timothy Tyson wrote the book, and his book gave me a lot of hope. And it brought a lot of satisfaction and a lot of closure to me when he was saying that because all my life, I did not like the way that they were portrayed Emmett. And he admitted, said that she said she lied. So that gave me some sense of closure, because I wanted his name, the way they portrayed it, I want that clear. You can't bring him back, but I didn't like the way he was looked at. I liked the way he was viewed in history. So I got very excited about his book, very excited. So the FBI, they went into that, and you read it, you know the story there.
But to give our listeners a sense of what's important about it, the central claim, the part that was the big news in the book, was that Tyson said that Carolyn Bryant Donham had recanted on her story.
Yes.
So what did that piece of information give you, your family, and the FBI license to do?
It gave me, we were kind of not at odds with each other. That's what I wanted. That's the main thing I wanted, to clear his name up, clear the way people look at him. That's all I wanted in life. And I wasn't so much, and if there's some justice by her going to jail, fine. But I had what I wanted when I heard that she had admitted that she lied. But other family members, they wanted much more than that, and I was not against that. But I felt so good to hear that she had said she lied on Emmett.
Reverend Wheeler Parker, in that conversation, our Q&A program.
Yes, it's really sad to know that a person's words, untrue, could cause such harm to another person. It's really sad. And it's also very, very demeaning. That's the point that was being made, to say that he did something of this nature when he did not. But I am proud that the President of the United States, he showed the film at the White House, and I was there. I had the opportunity to be there.
Which film?
Till, yes. This president wants people to understand the history. And I'm just proud that he does that, because there's so much of the history that's been distorted. This is a piece of history that was distorted for years. And he takes on the challenge of correcting history. But even with his efforts, we still have some other challenges that I have to just mention now that we brought this up. The Russell Senate Office Building. Richard Russell was a self-proclaimed white supremacist. He fought the anti-lynching legislation that we ultimately passed not so very long ago. He fought it. His name is on a Senate office building. That building is a symbol of national shame for this country. His name should come off. Let it revert back to the name it had before his went on, which was the old Senate office building. That would be the appropriate thing to do. And that can be done if the Senate but only had the will to do it.
And something that you hope will be done as part of your conscience agenda. What is that?
Yes, the conscience agenda is this. The conscience is that thing within us that says this is right or this is wrong. And then there's a moral imperative that we have, which says that you know this is wrong, you need to correct this injustice. That's what the conscience agenda is all about. And this Richard Russell office building, getting his name off of it, is a part of the conscious agenda. I'm a one-person protest. I don't go into the building. I encourage others who feel similarly, don't go in as well.
If there's a senator that wants to meet with you in that building, you won't meet there?
He will not. I've had invitations to come there for meetings. Several groups have asked me to come to speak. I will not go in that building other than to protest. I will go to protest, but other than that, I won't go. He has a statue that is dedicated to him in a rotunda. Richard Russell, who fought anti-lynching legislation, who was one of the co-authors, if not the author, of the Southern Manifesto, who fought the whole notion of integration, and his name is on a Senate office building paid for with taxpayer dollars. It needs to come off.
Anti-lynching legislation, which you helped pass just last year.
Just last year, I was a supporter of it, and obviously I voted for it. It took all of these years. I remember Reverend Jesse Jackson coming to Congress and making an appeal to us to do this. This is something that's been on our agenda for a very long time, and I'm proud that it was finally done. I think Bobby Rush pushed forward with it, and we got it done. But let me mention this. You brought the conscious agenda up, because this is something that's important to this country. 1619, August 20th, a day that will live in infamy in this country, because it was on that day that the first Africans were brought to this country and traded into slavery. We have since that time reviled those persons who are the foundational mothers and fathers, in that they helped lay the foundation for the economic success that we have today. Built roads, bridges, the White House itself, the Capitol. They did all of this work without any pay, any recompense, any emolument. Laid the foundation. In 1956, we gave a Congressional Gold Medal to the enslavers, the Confederate soldiers. 1956, Congressional Gold Medal. No such thing for the people who gave their lives were sacrificed for the country. We need to give them a Congressional Gold Medal as well. That's on the conscious agenda, a Congressional Gold Medal for the enslaved. If we revere the enslavers, surely we can revere the enslaved.
Talking with Congressman Al Green, Democrat of Texas. He's with us for the next 20 minutes. That's when the House comes in. And of course, we'll go there for gavel-to-gavel coverage, as we always do. Phone lines, if you want to join this conversation. Republicans, 202-748-8001. Democrats, 202-748-8000. Independents, 202-748-8002. As always, a lot of callers for you, Congressman.
Always.
Let me get right to the calls. Dorothy, Baltimore, Maryland, Democrat. Good morning.
Good morning. Me as a Democrat, I want to discuss some things with you that you all do not fight back on. One, please don't cut me off, John, because this is important. We do not believe in 9-month pregnancy if a baby is alive and well and can live. Why do you not fight against that? Hold on. We do not believe in pornography in school. Why can't y'all y'all tell us that Republicans are saying we believe in all this nuttiness? We don't believe in none of that. I think that Republicans are going, and what school is doing that? They should be, whoever's doing it should be arrested, because we're not going to go for all that kind of nonsense. But you all do not fight that, and they've gotten it out there. Many Republicans call you in and tell you that we're demons because we believe in all of that, and we do not. We do not. And another thing about that tax break, and this is what I've experienced myself, when Trump did that tax giveaway, and it wasn't to me, when the exemptions were taken away, and if you ever had any gambling, expenses, you cannot do that unless you itemize. You can't write that off anymore.
Well, Dorothy, let me stop you there. Congressman, on Democrats not fighting back on issues like late-term abortion, pornography in schools.
Well, I think she's eminently correct on this point, that we are opposed to pornography, and we are opposed in schools, and we are opposed to 9-month abortions. That's not what it's about. Abortion is about, we're talking about the health care of a woman and a woman's right to have some privacy in terms of how her health care needs are satisfied, and that she should have the opportunity to do these things with someone that she trusts. That could be her minister, could very well be other family members, but it's a woman's right to choose, not my right to dictate. And I do think that we have to do more to fight back against this perception that's being pushed as it relates to Democrats. We're doing a lot, but I can't say that we've done enough, because there is that perception, and she's right, and we have to change that, and we have to fight against that. I was in a discussion last night where this conversation came up, and how we've got to really push back. So I'm pushing back right now. We are opposed to pornography in schools. And I agree with the lady. Show me the school where this is happening, and show me the Democrat who's saying, I support pornography in schools. It's just not there. But that's the perception that Republicans would give, and that distorted perception has to be dealt with.
Take you down to Collins, Mississippi. This is James, Independent. Good morning.
Yes, how you doing, Mr. Green?
Good morning, sir.
Yes, Mr. Green, I agree with you on that part. They know that the Democrats and mostly any person with any sense that they don't want children to be taught pornography in schools. They just throw everything off the wall, and some people get it, and whatever they say, they go along with it. But my thing is, Mr. Green, is this: okay, they don't want you to teach whatever they call it, theory something. I say to you, sir, I would hope that you would speak one day about having each state talk about their history in school from the age of 8th grade to 12th grade. Every state must teach the history of their state, good or bad. And let's just see what they say.
History of the state, good and bad.
Well, I think so. It would be great to do this, especially the state of Texas. The state of Texas is a state that was kicked out of Mexico, because it was a part of Mexico at one time, because they wouldn't give up slavery. They refused. So they had to leave Mexico, came into the Union, left the Union because they wouldn't give up slavery. The only state twice because they wouldn't give up slavery. So yes, that needs to be taught. And it needs to be taught such that people understand the history, not because we are engaging in hate. The truth is what has to be told, because if the truth is told, we will do more to revere the foundational mothers and fathers, the enslaved people who laid the economic foundation upon which we stand today.
Laying that economic foundation, where are you, and we've talked about this before, on reparations right now?
I am supportive of reparations. I don't know that we are quite there yet. Obviously, my colleague Jackson Lee has a bill that would give us an opportunity to study this and come to conclusions as to what happened, how it happened, what should be done. I support that legislation. But I also believe that that legislation and legislation for a Truth and Justice Committee or Commission will have a better chance of getting done if we have a Department of Reconciliation. We've not reconciled in this country. We need to have a Department of Reconciliation.
To do what?
To assure us that we can have a clear look at these issues of concern related to our history and past transgressions. For example, what happened to the Native Americans during the Trail of Tears when they were just uprooted from where they lived and forced to move across country? We've not reconciled. We need to reconcile with slavery, as I've indicated. And to do that, just as we have a Department of Education to deal with issues related to education, a Department of Labor, we need a Department of Reconciliation.
At what point can we say we have reconciled? What needs to happen for reconciliation?
For reconciliation to take place, especially as it relates to slavery, we need to get to a point where we revile the enslavers, not the enslaved, and we give them the honor that they deserve. There ought to be a slavery remembrance day, just as we have a 9/11 remembrance, Pearl Harbor remembrance, Holocaust remembrance, just commemorated Holocaust remembrance. I was there. We need a slavery remembrance day. And I appreciate this president for acknowledging slavery remembrance. So we need to get these things done, but to get them done, you need a department devoted to them. All of these things.
Are they being done now? The Fort Lee, the name Fort Lee is being changed this week.
Yes, and there are others across the country, but the name Richard Russell isn't. Richard Russell's name has to come off the building. We in Congress can change the name on forts, but we can't change the name on a building that we ingress and egress on a daily basis. Surely we can see the injustice in that. Surely we can. The public should at some point decide, well, you know what? I'm not going in the building either. I refuse to, and I give others the opportunity. One more thing on the Department of Reconciliation. You would have secretaries of reconciliation, just as you have secretaries, undersecretaries of labor, you have undersecretaries. It's a legitimate department with a secretary reporting to the President of the United States. Let's let the world know that our intentionality is to correct this injustice. There are no schools named after the heroes who tried their best, the liberators, to liberate black people from slavery. There's not a John Brown elementary school that I'm aware of. There may be someplace, but I'm not aware of it. Or a Nat Turner. These people were liberators. We have been taught to believe that they were some vile people John Brown was out of his mind because he tried to liberate black people from slavery. The history has to be told. And that's what this Department of Reconciliation can help facilitate.
Gainesville, New York. Sean, line for Republicans. Good morning. You're on with Al Green.
Good morning, folks. Congressman,
Yes, sir.
just a couple of points. Did you get a chance to hear Rand Paul's speech in the Senate at all about spending other people's money, about Davy Crockett and a constituent of his, Horatio Bunce?
No, sir, I did not.
Okay, well, it's about how, the government spends money, and Horatio Bunce was saying that Congress wanted to appropriate money for some fire victims. But Horatio Bunce brought up the point that it wasn't constitutional, that, Congress is, and Davy Crockett said, well, maybe all of us congressmen could donate money out of our own, donate money out of our own salaries. And of course, Davy Crockett was the only one that was willing to do that. And another point, I know she mentioned reparations, and I wasn't going to talk about that, but I am of 90% Irish ancestry. And I don't know if you realize how the Irish were treated when they first came to this country. There were signs in businesses all over this country saying Nina. That means no Irish need apply. And we were discriminated against because of our faith, being Catholics. What do you think about maybe some reparations for the people of Irish heritage also?
Well, I think that was entirely wrong. I lived through segregation in this country, lawful segregation, I might add, state-sponsored. I went to the back doors. I drank from colored water fountains. I had to sit in the balcony of the movie if I was allowed into the movie. I had to sit in the back of the bus. So I've celebrated my 25th birthday for the third time. So the history that many people talk about, I lived. So I understand. So people of color suffered many of those things as well. But there is a distinction. Slavery, for centuries, people were chained. Babies were born into slavery. They lived their lives as slaves. They died as slaves. For centuries, 240 years, we had this institution that denied people their human rights. It was one of the greatest crimes ever committed against humanity. That's an injustice that has to be corrected. People of color suffer the same injustices that you're talking about for the Irish. But we, in addition to that, suffered this thing called slavery. And I assure you, it was not something that we can sanitize. It was kidnapping, it was rape, it was murder, it was all of the horrific things that we don't like to talk about. Just as the Holocaust was something that's unlike any other thing that's ever happened. It was one of the greatest crimes against humanity. It was horrific. I've been to Yad Vashem, and I've seen the evidence of what was done to people, how they were tortured and mistreated and murdered. We tell the truth about the Holocaust. We've got to tell the truth about slavery.
Independence, Oregon. Dan, line for Democrats. Good morning.
Good morning. I just would like to talk about what the woke movement means to me. And as far as I can tell, in all the studying I've done, woke means truth. And so I'd like to say to Governor DeSantis, the truth comes to floor. Thank you.
Talking about the issue of wokeism.
Well, people have distorted what the intentionality was. And it is to simply say, be aware of your circumstances. And also there's implicit in this, do something to correct it. Have a conscious agenda. Every person ought to have a conscious agenda with a moral imperative to do things that will help us to have a better society. I love my country. I don't do this because I hate America. Nobody can say that Al Green hates America. I sing the national anthem. I salute the flag. I say the Pledge of Allegiance. But the greatness of America will not be determined by whether Al Green will do these things. The greatness of America rests in whether Al Green will stand up for people who choose not to salute the flag, who choose not to sing the national anthem. That's the greatness. When we accept the fact that there are some people who do not choose to do what others consider the norm. That's the greatness. And I appreciate the greatness and I love it. But I also want to make sure that we correct an injustice that has dogged us since August 20th of 1619, and that's Slavery Remembrance Day, by the way. We should correct this. And the way to do it is with a Department of Reconciliation and take on all of these other injustices as well. I mentioned the Native Americans. Things happen to the Asian community in terms of how they were treated in constructing the railroads in this country. But then later on, when we had a war, they were placed in these camps, had property confiscated. These injustices have to be corrected. This is a great country, liberty and justice for all. That includes them too.
A few minutes left before the House comes in, and you'll be working again today on the looming debt ceiling crisis. I wonder how this ends in your mind.
Well, I hope it ends as President Biden has suggested, and that is we pass a clean debt ceiling and don't allow ourselves to be, pardon the French, pardon the language, blackmailed into doing something that is in addition to passing a clean debt ceiling. Because once we do this, and we've done it, you continue to do this, the list of things that can be required can only grow. It's not going to shrink. So we have a duty to do this, just pass a clean debt ceiling, and then we've got regular order to deal with all of these other things. The system is designed for us to be able to debate and vote and come to conclusions and hopefully build a consensus, to cooperate. This is what the system is designed to do. But we eschew that. We find a way to escape it and go around it. We need to get back to what many of the conservatives have said. I've heard them say it, that they want regular order. I'm for regular order too. And this is out of order. The whole notion that we're going to be forced to do things that, quite frankly, I don't agree with. I don't agree with the notion that we can force our country to now decide that we are going to take from the needy to satisfy the needs of the very wealthy and greedy. That's not America. And that's what this would do. This legislation that is proposed would cut food to people who need it. Air traffic controllers, it's been estimated by the Transportation Department that we might lose 375 air traffic controllers. When you look at the cuts, they can hurt. And we don't need the cuts at a time when the president is helping us to get back into normal. He's helping us to eliminate the inflation. It's down from the more than 9% that it was at one time to around 5% now. He's helping us with the gasoline prices that everybody complained about. Well, they're coming down. They fluctuate a little bit, but they're way down comparatively speaking. The president has got us moving in the right direction. We need to continue that, and I support the president.
Until the House comes in, phone calls with Congressman Al Green. This is Philip, Jackson, Mississippi, independent. Good morning.
Good morning, young gentlemen. I wanted to address the point that Mr. Green made about the reparations and a group of people to come together and work on the facts of the history of this country's failure at race relations, including Native Americans as well as African Americans. I've been deeply interested in the subject for well over 25 years. I wrote a book called Running My Shoes to talk about the subject. However, I find that we don't look at the reality that Mr. Green suggested. It's like we just want to hide it or sweep it under the rug. But until we address the history of the rise of violence in this country, the taking of land from the people that were already occupying it, and the stealing of people to create the world, the illusion that everything was done by the hand of manifest destiny and all of those things that were the true essence of this country. I think it's just so important what you raised, and I hope you run with the ball on this subject, because it's like so many people are just unaware of the true history that made up what we are. And if we're going to be a more, let's say, a better nation, a nation that's going to get better and grow better, we need the truth. We need.
Philip, let me stop you there and let the congressman jump in.
Sure. I serve on the Financial Services Committee under the leadership of the Honorable Maxine Waters. And under her leadership, and I, as the chairperson of the subcommittee on oversight, we had the big banks to come in. And we found that they have a connectivity to slavery. These are the large banks. Their predecessor institutions would make loans so that people could buy other people. And if they defaulted on the payments, the bank could repossess people. That has to be corrected. The insurance companies would insure people. And if something happened to that property, this enslaved person, then the owner would get money. These things have to be corrected. This was through their predecessor institutions, and we got to correct them.
Congressman Al Green, out of time because the House is about to come in. I do always want to thank you for coming on, though. Democrat from Texas. That's going to do it for us on the Washington Journal this morning. We'll, of course, be back here tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Eastern. It's 4 a.m. Pacific. And now to the House floor, live coverage, gavel to gavel of the